So this is Katie Compton. She has amassed 16 World Cup wins, 3 medals at the Cyclocross World Championship, 75 UCI wins, a world record 3 km pursuit in an event at the Olympics where you rode a tandem.
Mm-hmm.
I may have got some of that wrong. I mean, you have so many records and wins. How did that all come about? How did that start?
Oh, the Paralympic stuff,
Yeah.
the tandem. I was working at Carmichael Training Systems as like an intern, and then one of the coaches there was coaching the Paralympic team, and he needed a pilot for the blind athletes, and he knew my background with track racing and road, and the fact that I wasn't racing as much anymore at like the elite level, so I qualified to be a pilot. I wasn't getting paid professional. I hadn't done any UCI races. Like, I wasn't really racing anymore, so it was a good fit. And then he just said, "You want to try it?" And with the possibility of going to Paris, if we're good enough. And yeah, I just said, okay, I'll give it a go. And my partner and I, we kind of meshed really well, and we rode well together. And it just kind of, we clicked, I guess, and just went fast. And we ended up, I think we won the pursuit at Worlds that year and the time trial Worlds that year too. So it's like we'd been riding together for all of, I think maybe 4 months, if that. And we rode over the pursuit and won 2 world championships. So it's like okay, I guess we're good at this, and it kind of went from there.
Well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
To just come from scratch and do that.
Yeah.
Tell me your last name, or excuse me, your middle name, the FN. Where does that come from?
That was one of those nicknames that you just pick. I guess your friends kind of do for you, make up for you, I guess. And it was like one of, like, I think the first season I was doing really well in the cross bike, and I was winning a lot of races, and like people didn't know me yet. It may have been like the year after I won my first national championship. And one of my friends asked the other one, like, who won the race this weekend? And the other friend just said, Katie fucking Compton. Who else? Like, that was a dumb question to ask. So it kind of just caught on from there. And then ever since, just kind of, it stuck.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's pretty badass. Tell me, your husband's involved a lot with your races. Is he your main support, and what do you depend on him most for?
Yeah, he does pretty much everything except ride the bike for me. So he does all the mechanics works and all the support and like, emotional support, physical support, like all the bike work. He does the coaching. He kind of like keeps me sane and keeps everything just going on the right path, I guess. I think everybody needs a partner like that, and Mark definitely kind of fills that role of doing everything that I can't do to make me go fast.
That's great. Okay, yeah. So, you've just been selected for the Amgen Tour of California's Women TT. I mean, are you pumped up about that? And secondly, how do you think you're going to fare? Do you think you can beat these other girls?
I don't know. Like, I haven't done a time trial since I was on the Paralympic team, and that was on the tandem. And tandem time trial is different than single bike time trial, but it's just still the same effort. It's still putting yourself in that place where you're suffering and everything hurts, and all I want to do is to stop and just like kind of embracing that suffering and just going for it. So, like, the effort I'm pretty confident with. It's just, I don't know how it's going to fit in the, in the final results, I'm excited. I was really honored to be asked. Just because it's such a select group of women, and they're all really strong and top time trials in the world, and top racers. It's I'm just surprised that they asked me, to be honest.
I think it's awesome, and I have this feeling you're going to do really, really well.
I'm curious to see. Like, Trek's hooking me up with a sweet time trial bike, and like they're getting behind me for it. So, I'm kind of excited to see how it goes. I've never really enjoyed time trialing, but something like this.
Does anybody enjoy time trialing?
I think they enjoy the finish.
Yeah.
Like once you're done, once you've gone past that point where you're just like, your body hurts like more than it could ever hurt, and then it's kind of like when you stop hitting your head against the wall, like, wow, that feels really good. I'm finally done.
Yeah. Well, how do you think this is gonna? What do you think the future is for women in these big races? If this is a success, do you think you can get more women in these big races?
I think we should. I think this is going to be interesting for people to watch and spectators to check out while they're, waiting for the men. I think it's going to be entertaining. I hope. I definitely think have more women's events.
You're covered up somewhere. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah. You have everything set up already. So there's no. It seems like it'd be pretty easy to run a women's event right before the men's event, and then it gives spectators something to watch most of the day instead of just waiting for the men to come through for a quick finish and then everything's over. So I'd love to see more races. I think the women put on a good show and it's entertaining racing, and I think the more of it, better off it'll be.
Now let me ask you a question. Take me into Louisville, the World Championships. We're watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like you have, at one point there, closer to the end, it seems like you are right there with Miss Voss. And you give it one big effort, and I swear you're right there. And normally in all the other races I've watched, usually you're minutes ahead of these other competitors.
Right.
What is it going to take for you to find that extra gear, or to have that extra gear to end up beating somebody like Voss and bring home the rainbow?
That's a tough question because she's really hard to beat when she's so fast. When she's on her game, she doesn't have any weaknesses, so it's hard to it's hard to know. I train hard to kind of work on all my weaknesses and work on my speed, work on my sprint. Obviously the strength is usually there, and I definitely work on that, and I'm strong in the mud. But I think for me it's going to take me having a clean race and a good race, and seem to have, if I have any issues at all, you can't come back, you can't chase. Marianne is fast enough where she gets a gap, there's no closing it down. It's, you got to stay with her, and then, hope for the best, or hope she makes a mistake at some point. But I don't know. I'm going to keep going for it. At some point, she's going to have a bad day or an off day or something.
What's it like racing in front of a home crowd? Is it a big difference? Does it make a difference?
I've got that motivation no matter what, because I just like to race my bike and I like to win. I like to do well, mostly for my own benefit.
You're covered again.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to have any regrets once I'm when I'm done. I want to be I put everything out there. It's everything I could do. So I think racing in front of the home crowd was more emotional than I thought it would be. I'm usually not kind of that connected to a race, but Louisville was one of those where I definitely was getting emotional. It was everything I could do to podium that day, especially since I wasn't having I didn't feel particularly great, and then having a mishap early and chasing, it was one of those I got to get a medal here. I can't not finish in the top three. That wasn't an option. Once the race started, I was going to do everything I could do to make sure I got a medal and to have a good finish, be on that podium, because not being on that podium I think would have been devastating to me.
Well, it was a great ride.
Yeah.
I have some tougher questions for you, just some harder questions. Does being the underdog or a contender or the favorite make a difference to you?
I have to say, I think being one of the top contenders is hard, because once people expect things of you, and there's a little more pressure, and it's I win a lot, and so people expect me to win all the time, and it's that kind of pressure is kind of annoying too, because I'm not the only person in the race, and I don't think it's necessarily respectful to the other riders too. Because it's a bike race, anybody can have a better day, anything can happen, and it's one of those, like, I hate it. I hate the extra pressure, especially the way the media is like, are you going to win? You're going to win. You're going to win. It's like, no, like, I don't know that. Like, I'm going to go and do everything I can, do everything right. Doesn't mean I'm going to win.
Right. That's a good
so I think those expectations are hard to live up to sometimes. Yeah. And then even, like, when Voss and I race against each other, like, people, they do it to both of us. And I think she's come on top, obviously more than I have, but it's still, I think she even struggles with it too. And I mean, as fast as she is and as many races she wins, it's like, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's a war out there. I know. It's
yeah.
a mental, everything else. Do you rehearse strategies, executions, and feelings for every competition?
I do. Yeah, I go through kind of in my head how it can turn out, how it can happen, like what I'm going to do in certain situations. I think that's smart, just because when you're racing and you got the I don't know, like emotions on the line, you got the nerves going, it's hard to make the right decisions. And so I think it's good to kind of step back from racing and say, okay, I'm good at this, my weaknesses are this, like if this happens, I need to do this. I definitely think it's good going in with a game plan and then how I'm going to approach certain scenarios, but then kind of letting the race happen and then, going on instinct when I can, but also thinking about, okay, let's not chase that thing down because that's not going to stick. Let's be smart about this and throw my matches when I can. So, yeah, I do definitely think kind of go through the races. I think it helps.
This is all great information, especially if you're a younger athlete.
Yeah.
Watching this, you'll learn something from this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you draw lessons after every competition?
Yeah, of course. Actually, I learn the most from the races that I don't win because I mean, winning's not easy, but you don't learn anything from it because you usually did most things right. So I think when I don't win, when I don't do as well as I want to, that's when I can say, like, like, what can I have done better? What should I have done better? Like, where did I mess up? What can I improve upon? I think that stuff, that makes me a better racer than it does going out and winning.
Have you had any times where you've won through adversity?
No, pretty much every World Cup this year, I think. I'm really good about I think I do better actually when I have like bad luck or issues come up or a crash or like for some reason it just makes me angry enough and then like focus more for some reason. So like for me, like if something bad happens early, it's just like, what's one more time? Just, put your head down and go. So that's one thing that I'm stubborn as hell and I'm persistent. So I never give in. It's like, if I don't do everything I can to get, the best finish I possibly can, then I'm going to be disappointed when I finish. And disappointment is the worst feeling. So I'd much rather do everything I can for like third than, finish the race in fifth, being disappointed, like, I should have done this, I should have done that. It's like, well, I didn't, and you can't go back. So I want to finish every race happy with it.
This is the last question.
Mm-hmm.
How important is recovery to you?
That's the huge part of training. Like training and racing, like you've got to be able to perform the next day and train the next day. So recovery is huge, especially the periodizations through the season, getting the right rest after race season and traveling, and then also giving your brain a rest too, especially from like intensity. I think I know after cross season I can only do intensity for so long, and then my body just is like, whoa, give me a rest here. I mean, it's hard to put yourself in that spot where you're doing intensity, you're racing hard, you're constantly riding kind of in that uncomfortable LTVO2 range where you're just like always hurting. So I think it's important to take a step back from that and go back to the kind of easy miles and like the recovery time and just kind of give your body time to kind of relax and recover and enjoy riding easier on a bike, slower on a bike, I guess.
Yeah, like all of us. Well, we really appreciate you joining us on Cycling Illustrated. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Not that I can think of.
I ask you a lot of questions, and you're very sweet in answering everything, and I appreciate it, and we wish you the very best of luck.
Thanks.
And we'll be out there at the Amgen Tour of California, and I just know you're going to get a great result.
I hope so.
So
There's
time
good
to get
prize
back
money,
to
so.
intensity for a little bit.
Yeah. Once I get my time trial bike, I'm going to work on the time trial training and see how air I can get these shoulders. That's one thing. I got big cross shoulders. I don't know how they're going to do in air bars, but we'll see.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Katie Compton. We'll talk to you again soon. You're very kind.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.